Concentrate on the divine form of the Master and pray for peace and joy of the whole humanity. Om Stavakaya Jadharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Stavakaya Jadharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishna Te Namaha Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityormamritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us bow down to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God incarnate. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. We are discussing some important topics which are very useful for our life. These topics are related to spiritual life. In the last 2-3 classes, we have been discussing about the challenge of karma, and we are encountering karma every day, and how to face these challenges in the life. That's very important. That means you should know the problems in front of you, and then you must take necessary steps. And it requires stability in your character. Character plays a very important role in conducting your life. Generally, people immediately act upon by their emotions, by their sentiments. They act upon by their impulse. And these things, instead of facing the problems in the life, make the life more complicated. You will not be able to tackle the problems if your mind is agitated. So you have to analyze yourself very thoroughly, and you have to shape your character accordingly. And how you have to exert your will to control your emotions, your sentiments. That means actions that are detrimental to the building of good character are to be given up. That means you have to exert your power of volition. So, it is not enough just to find out good and bad qualities or sentiments and emotions in one's personality. More important is he has to exert his willpower, and it is very important that he should control those emotions and sentiments which are detrimental to the ideal, and one has to cultivate and culture those sentiments and emotions which are helpful to building good character. So, herein comes the very important role played by the will. How the will functions, how we can use it to realize our ideal, that we shall see today. So, life should be lived in a very organized way. Everything must be done in a proper way to get the good result. For all practical purposes, will may be regarded as the function of one part of the chitta, mind as a whole. Mind has infinite powers, of which we are totally unaware. To the extent you become aware of the powers of the mind, to that extent you can enrich your life in a proper way. Now, will is one important function of the mind. When an ideal appears to our being, what will happen? It stimulates a strong desire in us to respond to it. Suppose you attend a good program of music, or if you attend a function where a holy person is conducting class, these are all occasions to stimulate yourself. So this desire, being supported by sentiments and emotions, becomes so intense and dominant that it subordinates and subdues all other sentiments and emotions not congenial to the ideal, and inspires us to do such acts and to cherish such sentiments and emotions as are congenial to the ideal. So at this stage, the intense desire becomes will. intense desire becomes will. When Swami Vivekananda visited Sri Ramakrishna, when he asked him wholeheartedly whether one could see God and whether Sri Ramakrishna had seen God, Sri Ramakrishna replied emphatically that it was possible to see God, you could communicate with God, you can talk to God, and also he said he had realized that he had seen God. So when Swamiji saw Sri Ramakrishna, and he is telling in such a straight way, I have seen God, you can also see him. That provoked him. And Swami Vivekananda was a person of remarkable strength, remarkable willpower, personified strength, Swami Vivekananda. Strength is life, weakness is death. That is the message of Vivekananda. So, when he saw Sri Ramakrishna, the desire to see God became will. That means he determined, well, I must see God in this life. So the desire transformed itself into will. Then finally how Swamiji could see God face to face, you must study his life. So this will is further strengthened by constant use and practice. Well, what's the general experience we come across? Ordinary people, they do get all these problems. Well, when the appealing ideal first stimulates a desire, it is likely to be opposed by the forces of past habits. At this stage, when you are facing opposition, the desire has not become the will. Simply if you desire it, it doesn't automatically become will. You have to overcome all the obstacles on the way. The forces of habit try to subdue the incipient will and tempt the person to surrender to them and follow the old rut. They won't easily allow you to go in your own way. They want to drag you towards them. So for a while that force is very strong. But those who want to build good character do not yield to them, but resolve more strongly to fight against them. So what I am telling is, you must sincerely struggle to build your character in order to encounter karma. Without building up character, you can't face the karma. You can't challenge, you can't face the challenges in the life. So, these opposite forces, they are acting upon every one of us in some way or other. You want to come to chapel, immediately the opposite thoughts will come. Oh, why should I go to chapel? Let me go and meet a friend. I have got a social obligation. So that takes importance towards your spiritual activity. Social obligation is more important than spiritual obligation. See? When you are in that situation, you can't expect the will to be strong. In fact, you have not become aware of the will at all, I should say. So, these opposite forces continually exercise the incipient will every time they are tempted, and through practice if you are able to face them, then you will be strengthening your will. A fully developed, mature will becomes a permanent faculty of such a person's mind. So what I mean to say is that it depends upon your steadfast practice. Through practice, you can create your will, you can make the will more and more strong. So when your will becomes stronger, what happens is your old habits gradually lose their power of dragging you against your will. Sri Ramakrishna has said in the Gospel, he was telling the devotees, he liked to have two pictures, Sri Ramakrishna is telling. One of a yogi seated before a lighted log. Another picture, a yogi smoking a hemp and charcoal blazing up as he pulls. These two pictures Sri Ramakrishna wanted to have. The idea is that such pictures kindle one's spiritual consciousness. And Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of an imitation fruit. If you see an imitation fruit, it awakens the idea of the real one. What is the obstacle to the yoga? People talk a lot of yoga. Always people love to talk about yoga. They love it, no doubt. But they are not able to achieve anything, even though they have heard. The main obstacle is lust and gold. As long as the mind is occupied by lustful thoughts, as long as the mind is hankering after the wealth and property, you can't expect to be a yogi. Yoga is possible only when the mind becomes pure. Very important point. If you have to become a yogi, or if you want to practice yoga in a proper way, you must take steps to make your mind pure. So this purification of the mind is part of the character building. Character building means you have to purify yourself. You have to stabilize yourself in your thinking, in your speaking, and in your doing. In all these stages, you have to maintain a certain level of purity. The seat of the mind is between the eyebrows, but its look is fixed on the navel and the organs of generation and evacuation. That's to say, it's always towards lust and gold. But through spiritual disciplines, the same mind which was all along looking downwards can be made to look upward by spiritual practices. So what are the spiritual disciplines that give the mind its upward direction? One learns all this by constantly living in holy company, which is very essential to formulate your life. The rishis, the seers of olden times, they used to live in solitude, they used to live in the company of holy people. From the tender age, the children were placed under the responsibility of a great rishi, Gurukul Vas. The whole character of the person was being built under the direct supervision of the Guru. In olden times, I am talking about. Even 30 years back, 35 years back, we had still that system. But now it's all going away, but it is taking a different shape, it is coming up. Instead of Gurukul Vas, we have got residential schools now, where good atmosphere is provided and well-discipline is maintained, looked after by people who are well-established in character, so like that. So because you lived among the company of the holy, and because you are able to keep the mind pure, only when people are able to maintain that purity, they could renounce lust and gold. Then it is possible to fix the mind on God. Simply telling, oh, I love God. Simply saying is not loving. So in order to be able to renounce, one must pray to God for the willpower to do so. Through the willpower, the rishis controlled the sense organs. So strengthening willpower is one of the important spiritual disciplines in shaping your character. If your goal is to overcome suffering, if your goal is to achieve absolute freedom, if your goal is to enjoy everlasting peace and bliss, then you have to strengthen your willpower and you have to practice spiritual disciplines and stabilize your character and maintain your purity level of the mind. Swami Brahmananda ji, one of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, he said, within each one of us there is free will. Everybody has got that free will. You are at liberty to do. This freedom of the will is in reality the freedom of the Atman within. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, awaken the power of that self which is within you. After all, what's the meaning and purpose of spiritual practices and disciplines? It is to strengthen this will, the will to attain God in this very life. That's what Shankaracharya used to say. You must achieve the goal when you are alive. That's called Jivan Mukti. You must enjoy the taste of freedom when you are alive. As the mind becomes purer, the will becomes stronger. See, they are related. Swami Brahmananda says, it is downright laziness to relax this will and think that in some future time you will realize God. Think of Lord Buddha. Study his life. What do you find? What determination he had. After years of searching, he finally sat himself down under a tree. He was determined to realize God then and there, or die in the attempt. That's what is needed. Again, Swami Brahmananda said, unless we are willing to understand, none can convince us. He tells a story. There is a king. He promised the gift of half of his kingdom to anyone who would teach him the preparation of a puffed rice. Very simple dish. There cannot be simpler than this. The king wanted to learn, and he said he would gift half of the kingdom to whomsoever who would teach him how to prepare this puffed rice. Many people came. They explained, they demonstrated. But at the end, the king would always say that he did not understand. How could he? He simply would not. That's the position. So we are also like him, Brahmanji says. Who does not know that the world is transitory? You all know. Everybody knows. Everything is changing constantly. How can you say it is real? But we refuse to feel convinced, lest we also have to give away half the kingdom. What is that half the kingdom? The enjoyments of the world. How long has man to exert and exercise his will in order to subdue those tendencies that tempt him to do things that debase him and corrupt his character? So you have to undo what has already been done. When can we say that a man has been established in good character? When can we say that? Swami Vivekananda has given us the criterion of a fully formed character. He says, when a person has done so much good work, when a person has thought so many good thoughts, then there is an irresistible tendency in him to do good in spite of himself. And even if he wishes to do evil, his mind, as the sum total of his tendencies, turn him back. He is completely under the influence of good tendencies. Even though the evil thought may come up in the mind, he doesn't act upon it. When such is the case, one's good character is said to be established. That's a test. That's a test. So this is the standard by which we have to judge our character. We have to examine ourselves and see what are the tendencies that are prominent in our character. You have to examine yourself thoroughly. You have to subject yourself for criticism. Not simply criticizing others all the time. Wasting your time and energy, making your life miserable. If you constantly criticize others, you get the bad tendencies of those people whom you are criticizing. So we have to find out what's the basic motive behind our actions. What's it that prompts you to do certain things? What made you to become jealousy? What made you to become anger? What made you to become hatred? Go to the source. What is the motivation? What is the reason? So that means there must be a constant self-examination and introspection in your life. It should be constant. That means you have to examine every day. You have to introspect every day as you are taking food every day. So character formation is a continuous process, and we have to be always alert. If our good tendencies are becoming stronger day by day, then we may say we are advancing in the right direction towards the establishment of good character. Man discovered the laws governing electricity. And by applying those laws, he became the master of the tremendous power, electrical power. Now, he is using it as his servant. In how many million ways electrical energy, electrical power is being used. Likewise, if a man knows the laws that govern the mind, he can control it by applying those laws and can make the best use of its power to realize his ultimate goal. That means you need to know the laws of the mind, then you can assert your mastership over the mind, then the mind behaves as you want it to behave. Swami Vivekananda tells us, when persons do evil actions, what will happen? As a result, they become more and more evil. And when they begin to do good, they become stronger and stronger and learn to do good at all times. This is a very important statement. We may therefore take it as a basic law of character formation, that by repeating good actions and thinking good thoughts again and again, a good character gets established. While commenting on one of the sutras in Patanjala Yoga Sutras, Atha Asam Nirodhe Ka Upaya Iti, that is the aphorism in chapter 1. Swami Vivekananda has given a very good comments on this particular aphorism. Why should we practice? Because each action is like a pulsations quivering over the surface of the lake. The mind is compared to a lake. The vibration dies out, and what is left? Samskaras, the impressions. When a large number of these impressions are left on the mind, they coalesce and become a habit. It is said, habit is the second nature. And Swamiji says, it is first nature also. And the whole nature of man, everything that we are, is a result of habit. That gives us consolation. Because if it is only habit, we can make and unmake it. Anytime. Samskaras are left by these vibrations passing out of our mind, each one of them leaving its result. Our character is a sum total of these marks, and according as some particular wave prevails, one takes that tone. If good prevails, one becomes good. If wickedness, one becomes wicked. If joyfulness, one becomes happy. The only remedy for bad habits is counter habits. All the bad habits that have left their impression are to be controlled by good habits. That means go on doing good, thinking holy thoughts continuously. That's the only way to suppress bad impressions. Never say any man is hopeless, because he only represents a character, a bundle of habits which can be chucked by new and better ones. Character is repeated habits, and repeated habits alone can reform character. This is the redeeming message. Even for the lowest sinner in the world, whatever sins a man might have committed, he is never doomed forever. He is not condemned to an eternal hell. Every sinner in the world has a future. It is his bad karma that has made him a sinner. But every bad karma can be counteracted by good karma. Every bad tendency can be controlled by a good tendency. If the bad karmas have made our character bad, good karmas can equally unmake it and can make our character good. This is a message of great encouragement and hope. In whatever condition of life and in whatever state of mind a person may be, from that very point he can start a new life by trying to rebuild his character. Don't keep on bothering about your past actions. Stop bothering. Do you want to improve your life? Start afresh. Start afresh. Start. Make a beginning. You will see how you will get the result. So, man is the architect of his own character. He has got the tremendous power of karma at his disposal. If the bad karmas have made him a sinner today, it is 1,000 times more sure that his good karmas will make him a saint tomorrow. Because in essence, man is divine and not a sinner. When man starts using the power of good karma, his mind gets more purified. As the power of good karma tears off the veils covering the soul, the light of the Atman manifests itself more and more. This acts as a powerful check on bad tendencies and a spontaneous stimulus to good tendencies. And a time comes when the senses and the mind of the man become incapable of doing bad acts or thinking bad thoughts. Only then can a man be said to be established in good character. That man alone is free, who is always free to be good in thought, word and deed. True freedom is built on a pure character. Then, when you establish yourself in good character, then what is there for you to fear of? You are not afraid of any challenges. You can get across the challenge of karma. You will be ever in peace and joy, since you have found out the secret of life and realized the goal. So, everyone has got hope. Everyone can realize one's nature. It all depends upon how you build up your character. That means how you build up your strong willpower. A person who has strong willpower can achieve anything. Nothing is difficult for him who has strong willpower. So, that's the only way to challenge the problems that come in our life. Strengthening your willpower and disciplining yourself and keeping the mind always in a purity level. That concludes the topic which I was talking since 2-3 classes. The challenge of karma. Page 610. The Pandit from Sinti left. It was dusk. Twilight hung over the Panchavati, the temples and the river. Evening worship began in the different temples, accompanied by the sound of bells, gongs and conch shells. Sri Ramakrishna bowed before the pictures of the deities in his room. He was sitting on the small couch in an abstracted mood. A few devotees were on the floor. There was silence in the room. An hour passed. Ishan and Kishori entered and sat down on the floor after saluting Sri Ramakrishna. Ishan was a great ritualist. He was devoted to the performance of the various rites and ceremonies prescribed by the scriptures. The master opened the conversation. Master said, "Can one attain knowledge of God by merely repeating the word God?" There are two indications of such knowledge. First, longing, that is to say, love for God. You may indulge in reasoning or discussion, but if you feel no longing or love, it is all futile. Second, the awakening of the Kundalini. As long as the Kundalini remains asleep, you have not attained knowledge of God. You may be spent. The path of karma is very difficult. Through it one obtains some powers, occult powers. Then Ishan said, "Let me go and see Hazra." Sri Ramakrishna sat in silence. After a while, Ishan returned to the room accompanied by Hazra. The master was still silent. A few moments later, Hazra whispered to Ishan, "Let us leave him alone. Perhaps he will meditate now." Both left the room. Sri Ramakrishna was still silent. In a few moments, the devotees noticed that he was really meditating. Then he performed japa. He placed his right hand on his head, then on his forehead, then on his throat, then on his heart, and last of all on his navel. Was it meditation on the primordial energy in the 6 centers of the body? Ishan and Hazra had gone to the Kali temple. Sri Ramakrishna was absorbed in meditation. Meanwhile, Adhar had arrived. It was about 7:30. A little later, the master went to the Kali temple. He looked at the image, took some sacred flowers from the feet of the mother and placed them on his head. He prostrated himself before the mother and went round the image. He waved the chamara. He appeared ecstatic with divine fervor. Coming out, he found Ishan performing the sandhya with the kosha kushi. Master said to Ishan, "What? You are still here? Are you still performing the sandhya? Listen to a song. Why should I go to Ganga or Gaya, to Kashi, Kanchi or Prabhas, so long as I can breathe my last with Kali's name upon my lips? What need of rituals has a man? What need of devotions anymore? If he repeats the mother's name at the 3 holy hours. Rituals may pursue him close, but never can they overtake him. Charity, vows and giving of gifts do not appeal to Madan's mind. The blissful mother's lotus feet are his whole prayer and sacrifice. How long must a man continue the sandhya? As long as he has not developed love for the lotus feet of God, as long as he does not shed tears and his hair doesn't stand on end when he repeats God's name. I bow my head, says Prasad, before desire and liberation, knowing the secret that Kali is one with the highest Brahman. I have discarded once for all both dharma and adharma." We shall stop here. Any questions? So, spiritual life depends upon building up your character. That's the topic. You can have real results in spiritual life if you are well established in character. That means if you have a strong willpower to resist the evil, to fight. That fighting attitude must be applied to fight the opposite forces which are not congenial for your spiritual development. In order to fight the opposite forces, you need a strong willpower. If you are weak, you can't resist it. You can't fight with the opposite forces. On the other hand, you succumb. Anger comes, you become victim to it. Jealousy comes, you become victim to it. Hatred comes, you become victim to it. So you become victim of the situation, victim of the surroundings, victim of the conditions. But if you have strong willpower, you will not succumb. On the other hand, you will be able to overcome all these negative forces. You will be able to cross them. Then only you will get peace and bliss. So negative forces means negative forces are already lodged in the mind in the form of samskaras, impressions. So each one's samskara is different. Instead of fighting the bad samskaras, if you add up to the bad samskaras, you become more bad and you become worse in your next life. Be sure of that. Nobody can escape the law of karma. So, God has given little freedom, God has given willpower, He has given all the necessary accessories required to reach Him. You must know how to use them, and you must know how to reach the goal. It's all very simple. That means you must exert your will. As I said, you must examine every day, you must introspect every day. That's the conclusion. Yeah?
Can you explain...
Yeah. That which is good means that which takes you towards God. That which is pleasant means it is deceptive. It looks like good. On the other hand, it takes you away from God. So you lose your divine virtues. Instead of removing the coverings of the mind, you make the mind more impure by yielding yourself to the glamorous world. You run your mind towards the pleasures of the world. In that process, you are not able to get into the real joy which you would be able to reach only when the mind is turned towards good. That means that if a man is involving more and more in the world, more and more in the activities of the world, more and more in the pleasures and enjoyments of the world, from the point of view of spirituality, he is a lost person. He is lost. That means his life has gone waste. He is not able to turn towards God at all. That's the point. So, anything you must exert your willpower, that's what I am telling, to turn your mind towards God. Of course, in the beginning you are 100% involved in the world. Because you turn to spiritual life, you reduce that involvement in the world gradually. And you must reach a state where you never entangle yourself in the world anymore. All the time the mind was running after the world. Now the situation should reverse. The mind should run after God. It will run after the God when you feel longing to see Him. That longing comes when you are definite about your aspiration. That's all. So formation of good character, as I said, is important for approaching the good. It's like that. Anything else? We shall stop. Chant the name of the Lord and His life and His glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean, and quench that mighty forest fire, worldly lust, raging furiously within. O name, stream down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself. O self, drowned deep in the waves of His bliss, tasting His nectar at every step, bathing in His name, that bath for weary souls. Various are Thy names, O Lord, in each and every name Thy power resides. No time so set, no rite so needful for chanting of Thy name. So vast is Thy mercy, how huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to Thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass. Be patient and forbearing like a tree. Take no honor to thyself, give honor to all. Chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or retinue, the playthings of lust or the toys of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. A drowning man in this world's fearful ocean is thy servant, O sweet one. In thy mercy, consider him as dust beneath thy feet. Oh, how I long for the day when instant separation from thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years, when my heart burns away with desire and the world without thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at thy feet let me be in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of thy presence, though it tears my soul asunder. O thou who stillest the hearts of thy devotees, do with me what thou wilt, for thou art my heart's beloved, thou and thou alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers, may all realize what is good, may all be actuated by noble thoughts, may all rejoice everywhere, may all be happy, may all be free from disease, may all realize what is good, may none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous, may the virtuous reign in tranquility, may the tranquil be free from bonds, may the free make others free. May good betide all people, may the sovereign righteously rule the earth, may all beings ever attain what is good, may the worlds be prosperous and happy. May the clouds pour rain in time, may the earth be blessed with crops, may all countries be freed from calamity, may holy men live without fear. May the Lord, the destroyer of sins, the presiding deity of all sacred works, be satisfied. For he being pleased, the whole universe becomes pleased. He being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.